The Board of Sign Language Interpreters Rules Advisory Committee meeting is convening at 9:45 a.m. on August 8th, 2024. This meeting is being held in person and by MS Teams video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Amanda Smith. Here. Christy.
Here.
Lori. Here. Natalie. Here. Deanna. I saw an email from her, I had to check it. Nissa. Darcy. Here. Buck. Amber. Here. Edwin. And Mel. Here. Members, when you wish to
someone. Caitlin's also here.
let's take her over her name.
Interesting.
Take over it, Caitlin.
Interesting.
Sorry. Thank you, something. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through MS Teams keep your phones muted and cameras off for the entire meeting or until you are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period, which is indicated on the agenda. Public members wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet available or email Carrie Edwards at Carrie, Barrie .Edwards, EDWARDS at OHA.Oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board visits. This meeting is now called to order. That's slow enough. That's beautiful. Working on it. Okay, welcome everybody. A lot of you missed the last meeting, but there was a lot of fine work done, which we will go over today. I just sent you materials this morning and I've given you a packet, but a lot of changes were made, so I figured we'll just go over them again and talk through some of the ideas that, with the meeting on the 18th, and then also kind of talk about what happened at the meeting yesterday with the board. So kind of meeting logistics, are we gonna do it for you've been doing? Darcy gonna chair. People just sign or
I'm fine with that. We can do that.
however they choose. Okay. We talked a little bit last time about kind of how to facilitate if you want to use the larger Post-it notes or, note taking. Last time I had notes, I think Heather had some and Lori did those. So we didn't use the stickies. But what we did do is try to be really respectful of each other and give room to talk and the understanding that we don't know about your profession, you know about government, and then we're all here to try to make it as good as absolutely possible. So kind of with that in the back of our mind. One question that has come up, and I've reiterated this again, is the rulemaking process varies depending on the agency. So Department of Education, there's been a lot of questions why we're not doing it the way they do, and it's just a matter of their process. So they have one RAC that meets every month, and they go over hundreds of rules about all the Department of Education, and that's not how this operates. You guys meet, you're appointed as kind of a one-time deal, and when they're done, then we take it to the board. So everything is always a little bit different, just kind of depends how it washes out. So I wanted to kind of get that out there. And I think Georgianne was going to be on, but I'm not positive about that.
I don't see her yet.
Yes, so I have a calendar, so we don't have any other meetings scheduled. So about the calendar, we talked a little bit last time about just doing monthly meetings and just kind of rolling it out as far as we think. I think from here on out, it's gonna go faster, but I don't really know. It all just really different. Every group is different, every license is a little different, so, with that said, let's start with original license. So, in front of you Wait, let me make sure I got it from here. Oh, let me give you a board meeting update. So yesterday was board meeting, and one of the things we did on the 18th is talk about the education license and how we could try and make it more accessible for people for the upcoming school year. And so we drafted some language and took it to the board as an option for a temporary rule. They did not want to do that, so they did send us back with some information to give to you guys to consider and think about, which I'll keep that on kind of on my plate once we get to that license, but, changing the EIPA to a 4.0, 4 point, at least getting a 4 point on that was one of them. And yes, and there's some stuff about the Department of Education, so they have requirements and we have requirements, and there's the waiver, but the waiver only is with HLO. You still have to meet the requirements of ODE. So I was not clear about that in the communication to people, so I apologize. We'll be getting, me and Georgianne are gonna work on, an FAQ like in the next week to try to get that out to everybody. To kind of, it's confusing because they've got requirements, we've got requirements, and they don't match because of all the reasons I just said, that everyone's different, and so we're trying to get there, but it's a slow process, so, we're gonna work on that. So they decided to leave everything alone, just how it is, but we can always take something more back to them again and.
Also mention, also to mention, this is Tina, that ODE's requirements is that when the educators start the school year, that they have to be licensed here.
That's the confusing, part. Yes. Well, so, yes, so I've added the Department of Education rules to your packet, so one of their standards is you have to be licensed for HLO, and that doesn't, so the waiver would not apply.
This is Lori. I guess my question is the system set up such that now educational interpreters can go in and get their license instated for the current school year? Everything's good to go.
Yeah.
Nothing got backed out or anything when things went on hold.
Yep. I mean, the biggest thing that could happen is they don't have their AIPA score.
Right.
And there's nothing that we can do about that. Before was definitely not up for having them attest to have you taken it and then, providing that test score at time of renewal. Not want to do that. Just because of the, young populations of students. So there's that. And like I said, everything, we can do things all kinds of different ways. So we're not boxed into anything specific.
Christine has her hand up.
Good morning, this is Christy. So it was my understanding, and it sounds like there has been clarity, but my understanding was that the ODE OAR would point to the HLO, and that HLO rules were going to be what we follow. So now my wondering is, why would educational interpreters now have to satisfy two different agencies? And the obvious being, if we're supposed to have all of our interpreters licensed between now and August, so many questions. How is that going to be communicated? The impact to our rural areas is going to be significant. So I guess I have lots of questions all bundled up in one, but my big question I get, well, they're all important questions, but how is it now that educational interpreters now have to follow two different agencies? And does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So the law, our friend, right, says that specifically for the education license, that you guys must follow meet the requirements established by Department of Ed by rule relating to sign language interpreter servicing in schools, and meet any other requirements established by the board. So it's two different sets of rules. So also, I should say this. Georgianne has a meeting next week to maybe get a temporary rule in place, we're gonna work on something. I don't know what it's gonna look like yet, to see, how we can. Because the problem, what we're worried about is new interpreters who have never taken the EIP and they're waiting. I don't know what the turnover is like, won't be able to get the license, so. Because they have to get the license here, and if they can't get it, they don't meet ODE's requirement. It's definitely not easy to understand.
This is Amanda. This is Amanda, just a quick question. Who is Georgianne? No.
Oh, sorry, Georgianne Hardy is with Department of Education. Thank you. She's their lead.
Heather?
This is Heather. I think in your packet are the ODE rules.
Yes.
And then you also have the board's current rules for education. I'm page number.
These e-rules are on page. 23. So if you, the number at the top in the middle.
You go down to the bottom of page 23. And look at subsection 2. So that is ODE's requirement and rule right now. And you can see that board's rule.
Well, that's not it. It's in this one.
So we have a audit coming.
Trying to keep it relatively as because it's the current rule.
So,
The education license is on page.
that's the three of us.
So on page 10, and you can see what the board's rule is right now.
So there's two that kind of look the same.
Yes.
Which one?
So one says rules, administrative rules. And one says statutes.
What are we looking at? Statute rules. So which one again? So then on the
So,
rule requirement under 6,
so make sure.
section 6, page, that's page 10.
How you log.
Everyone else hear that? Okay. I'm gonna go through that.
So this opportunity to do an interpreter switch.
You can compare those to see how they are alike. And that the ODE, Department of Education rules, has that requirement under 2 for the board license. But the other requirements marry up. But they do require you to have, or a person working in an educational working in education for ODE for them to hold a license. And so that's the piece where Sammy was talking about. The waiver applies only for HLO, not enforcing if a person does not have a license. But at this period of time, ODE requires the license. So that's where the difference is. But otherwise, the requirements are the same. So if that makes sense. And then, as Sammy said, ODE is looking at whether to make a change to that rule that just went into effect in June.
Yes. And temporary rules can be done and they can be done in an immediate way if you meet the bar. It's obviously a higher bar because you're not doing comment, you're not doing, we're doing arrest, but because we're doing multiple things happening. Has to be like a serious prejudice to consumers, which in this case, are students. So, I mean, I think it's not a hard beat to make. It's just, we got to figure out how to get that worded and so we can get people licensed.
Those are the rules that apply going into the school year unless this ODE rule changes. And for the future, as this RAC considers what other recommendations to make for the education rule, that's where Sandy was talking about changing it in line with what the board's recommending. She'll bring to you later, and that then you can make other changes, recommendations, and then we would sync that up with ODE as well.
The other one was, in their June rules, they removed that 12 hours of continuing education annually. So, the board wanted the RAC to consider something like that for renewal. Require at renewal some amount of hours since ODE removed it.
This is Christy. So it sounds like there is some hope that ODE is going to work on a temporary rule change to the OARs. However, I'm just making note, it's August 8th. Portland Public Schools starts August 21st. So who should we plan to receive communication from in regards to the license requirements and that it needs to be done in the next 2 weeks?
From either me or Georgianne. I don't know who it will come from directly, maybe both. That's if they can get a change. I don't know how quickly they operates. I just know she has a meeting.
Well, either way, whether it gets changed or it doesn't get changed, we're operating in a very short window. And if we're going to take this seriously and actually try to meet the requirements, then everyone needs the information. Otherwise, you're going to have across the state a slew of interpreters doing their job without having the license.
Yeah. And currently only 3 have registered.
Right.
But that's,
Educational licensees. There's 100 people licensed, about 89. Oh. And there was 1,000 temporary licenses, about 100.
No. Where do you want me to sit if you want me to sign? Or up there, okay. So more of a housekeeping thing. I heard from 3 educational interpreters who applied for the license. And HLO didn't send like any like proof of payment to them. So no receipts to give back to their local school district so that they can get reimbursed. So, you know, think about that, you know, the process, like what needs to happen for that. So how can HLO change something like with maybe an email or something for proof of payment, just for those people to be able to get reimbursed? So Caitlin and I'm gonna find.
No.
So Caitlin, just to add to Mel's comment, my team recently was in negotiation, I guess, with the union, and the union agreed to pay, but they wanted to wait until the school season started. So meaning they didn't want to pay out of pocket. So we need, we definitely need a proof of payment, but if the license is the license itself proof enough? Tina?
This is Tina. So if you want a receipt, you need to email Michael and ask for a receipt. He will send those individuals that need a receipt. Other than that, we don't know who needs a receipt. We don't send receipts. We get hundreds of apps a day and we don't do that. It's only for reimbursement that we'll do it.
This is Lori, I just wanted to say that I'm gonna try to connect with Georgianne at ODE. She and I email fairly frequently, and I'm just gonna make a recommendation to her that ODE change the OAR to indicate something like see HLO. See regulations, requirements through HLO. That way, only one organization is really creating the requirements. I don't know that they'll listen to me, but that's gonna be my recommendation, because it's silly to me to have to comply with both and figure out which is saying what. And interpreters aren't gonna know where to look anyway, so the less muddy, the better.
Here's the unfortunate part of the law.
Well, it can stay in the law. I mean,
But the law says OD has to have a rule, and if the rule says, if it's like this, we talked
why
about
can't
this.
the rule read either duplicating what HLO has in place exactly, or here's a link to HLO and what the requirements are. I mean, it would have to be duplicated, I suspect.
That's not going to eliminate the problem with people wanting to work under the waiver.
No, it's not. I'm thinking more long-term. How do we avoid having conflicting?
Wait, Amanda? Did you have your hand up, Amber? Okay, Amber and then Amanda.
Yeah, this is Amber speaking. I just think that in general, it would be great if we could standardize the process where everybody's receiving a receipt. Just having that documentation is really important. And I don't know how we would go about that, but for a lot of the things that I do for my work, I get receipts for every single purchase that I make as a freelance interpreter, and having those receipts is really important. So just having that be a standard process where it's not as requested, but just as an automatic email. I don't know if that's possible, but just want to put that out there.
This is Amanda. I just want to clarify with maybe Sammy and Heather. Am I correct that ODE and HLO don't currently conflict in the requirements? The only thing that was added is in ODE, you have to have a license. But the actual requirements, 3.5, on bachelor through the match. So there's not currently a conflict in the requirements. Okay, but there would have been, had whatever talked about on the 18th passed, there would have been a conflict.
I think just Sammy, is that there's only 3 people licensed, so they can get a license. But people chose not to because they believe that they can work under the waiver. I think, I don't know that this is
I
true.
see, I see.
This is only my assumption.
Okay.
So therein lies the problem. And ODE made their rules, didn't consult us, and said, you gotta have an HLO license. Well, HLO has a waiver, and they hadn't considered that because now that's the conflict.
This is Lori. I think additional conflict is going to happen is what I'm anticipating. Because if we and the board are looking at increasing the 4.0 for interpreters, that's going to impact ODEs, regs as well.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a communication problem.
This is Heather. I wouldn't necessarily say there would be any conflict if they had passed what the RAC had recommended in terms of additional certificates that could be considered to show proof for that education license. They would be different, but yet there wouldn't be a conflict because a person could still comply with the ODE rule and still comply with the HLO rule, still get a license, still meet the requirements if they met the ODE requirements. So they weren't in conflict, it's just that they didn't completely match. But they didn't exclude what ODE had required. So those were already in there and then added on to.
You see that last part, Heather, for the interpreter about excluding? Yeah.
So the recommended rule for the board would included what ODE had and added on to it. But that did not take out what ODE had. That's right. I'm sure. The draft rule that was taken for the board's consideration.
Okay, yeah.
Included what ODE had originally in its rule.
Yep.
And then added in additional
Yes.
things that could be considered together.
Yes.
But it didn't take out what ODE had. It just added to it.
And add additional credentials that you could have to get a license or education. And it added the being able to attest to taking the EIPA and then time of renewal and giving us a pass score. So. Yes, all right, Heather, I was not on the same page as you. I was over here. There's all the questions, I'm sure.
I have a comment I'd like to make. I have a question.
In regards, I'm gonna actually come up to the screen. Darcy? I have a question, Henry. So if, for example, education interpreters, the K through 12, let's say someone doesn't have an interpreter one day and then they get a freelance interpreter that they pull in. Are they required to have an educational license as well? Or can they just use their generalist? I wanted some clarification upon that part. I was just curious. Take this opportunity to do an interpreter switch.
So. We're good. Yes, generalist and supervisor work in education without the additional education license.
This is Christy. So just to clarify,
Oh, generalist and a supervisory camp.
okay, so this is Christy, just to clarify. We have educational interpreters who now have to have their license by 6/14, goes into effect. We call a freelance agency, they're under the waiver because they haven't yet applied for their generalist because there's a waiver. Can they come in the educational setting? Yes or no?
I mean, they don't have the
Okay.
license. They're not,
So-
they're not meeting ODE requirements, so.
So I would just like to say, on behalf of all educational interpreter agencies, interpreters, the next conversation you have with Georgianne, you need to share, and I with myself, it needs to be emphasized with sort of a freaked out, this is not good, because there are schools that are using freelance all the time. And if we can't pull in the freelance, we will not be in compliance with, yes?
Are the freelance people not licensed supervisors or generalists?
No, because they're all thinking that they have a waiver until January. So why pay the fee if I don't have to until January? So there are many people who don't have the license that we're going to call upon that they will not be able to come into the educational setting. And that is going to disrupt. We will have IEPs out of compliance. Districts will not be in compliance. We're going to have sped directors losing it. So that needs to be shared with Georgianne like immediately.
Well, it will be up to Department of Education to make that fix, so I would suggest that you all make those calls to her emails, but I will let her know.
Yep, great, thanks. I'll do that as well.
I gotta send Deanna the link. When is that happen?
Go ahead, Amber.
Sorry, this is Amber. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding everything. So my understanding is that freelance interpreters who are coming in will say that's a generalist or supervisory, and have all the proper credentials, et cetera. If they haven't physically paid for their license, they would not be able to go into an educational setting and provide interpreting services. Is that correct?
See,
Yes, it's so. Just want to see that.
yeah, Tina?
So you were saying if there's supervisory or provisional already?
No,
Don't
generalist
catch your supervisory.
provisional, I know would have to also have their educational license in order to
So it
supervise
is.
the canine services in the educational setting,
Yeah, they have to have their license.
but paid for.
Yes.
So I have an email from Georgianne. She has a meeting about a temp rule at 10, and then she'll log into the rack as soon as she's done.
Great.
Yeah, she received the opening that I was in Word, yeah. And I don't know,
Just a second, Sam, you're getting caught up.
um, what were interpreters who work in K-12 notified of the rule changes for permanent education?
No. No,
They didn't, you, oh, you
No.
didn't know they had the rules?
no.
Oh, yeah, you probably want to request to be on their mailing list. Did you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, then you would have known that you have to hold the HLO license and all of it. So I think Joanne could probably tell you who the rules coordinator is, right?
And our staff, I think we're gone about that time anyway, so.
Personally, I learned about this information just yesterday on Facebook about this. So I don't know if it's gotten up to my team. I know some people have seen it and some people know about it, but again, we're waiting for our first paycheck to make the payment. So yeah, so we haven't heard anything directly from the Department of Education. Maybe, fortunately, I saw something on Facebook.
I'll send, all the RAC members, the Department of Education school coordinator meeting. Okay.
So I think this process of ODE passing some new stuff with working under different education departments, I have no idea what the process is, but it showed that there's definitely some communication breakdown between ODE and our research services. Also a process with training and providing developmental skills for interpreters. So we thank HLO helping us recognize some of those breakdowns and how it influences OT and our services. So we need to definitely coordinate better with each other. There's a lot of work we need to do. We need to go from there. Okay.
You ready to move on to the permission? Okay. No, we'll just wait for Georgianne and we'll do it. So, additional starts in which packet? This one. Page 7. So not much change in the first one, which tells you what license we're talking about. It says that it's only services, provisional license.
27,
Page 7. But
Page
it's one, it's marked one. No, look, 7 up at the top.
Oh, at the top.
Oh, okay. I tried to make it right in the middle. In this packet. Yeah, it's at the top.
The other confusion now.
At the top.
Oh, that's confusing with the different numbers.
Okay.
Well, many documents merged.
Do not need this part.
There you go.
So this one talks about that a generalist, the supervisory license holder and supervise and provisional must supervise. That there can be more than one supervisor, that they can be remote or on-site. And this one talks about, gives you the, if the applicant has not received a passing score on one of the EAPA exams listed in or below, and is granted a license, and the person must disclose to each client, the person is awaiting test result, and if the person does not receive a passing score, then the person's license is not renewed. So that is, added that caveat in there. at least until, I don't know when CIP will get it together. But these guys are working under supervision, so not as, impactful as the education license. So then on page 8 at the top, 1 through 6 is all normal stuff, and then at 7 is where we add stuff. So we did pathway. Don't recall where we exactly were last week, or the time before last. So we're just gonna go through it. The first one is an academic degree. An applicant must prove of having a degree in sign language interpreting from the accredited college or university in the United States. Is that still feel appropriate? That's the agreement we brought that.
Yeah, hold on for just a second, so I can read this for myself. I take a moment to switch.
Okay, we're good. So one clarifying question is to under pathway 1. Nope, all good. Sorry. Okay, so then now we're on pathway 2. The CASLI exam, which I think needs changed to a different name. So pathway CASLI exam applicant must submit proof of all the following. One of the following, having passed the CASLI generalist knowledge examinations. Exam consists of 2 parts. Fundamentals of interpreting, multiple choice questions, and ethical decision making and cultural responsiveness case study. Both parts of the exam must pass to qualify for the sign language interpreter provisional license. Then there's others. Passed the NIC knowledge exam, CDI knowledge exam, the IPA 3.5 above, the having a basic certificate from BEI, and then there's the English proficiency and ASL proficiency.
Sorry, I'm from the interpreter, I'm getting caught up. Oh, okay, now, yes, Amber?
Still signing, sorry. Yeah, so I think that we had discussed getting rid of just the word CASLI in CASLI examination. Leaving it as examination. From our last meeting, I believe that was what was discussed. This is Amber, by the way.
I would like to, well, no, go ahead, Sam.
No,
So if we took the word CASLI examination out, how many other exams are there? Because my staff wouldn't know which exam.
They're the ones that are all listed.
I'm just, I'll name you a different pathway, because there's also the proficiency, so it's not just the same. So, or you could have the certificate. So I'll just make a name.
Perfect.
No one will be.
That's right.
I'm not clear.
The title. I'm just talking about the title.
So
hold on,
pathway 2.
Talking. Well, I want to keep Casley.
Oh.
Keep.
Just type.
Man, disappointing. Oh, the sheet. Oh, I get it. The, do you mean remove Casley, the actual CASLI? And Amber's saying yes, and Darcy's saying, I think we should keep it because it's a specific kind of examination.
Under
And there's several.
big A, little I, it has the CASI. We're only gonna just change the title.
It's only, yeah, so
Of the
only the
title.
title, because right now it says exam. And then we have it listed for EI and then EIPA, which is not run through Pasley. That's why, so it's just general exam.
Okay, now I get it. This is Darcy speaking. Okay, I can difference the title. Thank you. I thought you were talking about lower, letter I. Okay. Yes, I agree. It should be removed.
Don't you know what we're thinking here? Okay, and then so pathway 3 is education and training. Change much of this. This was the 40 hours of education and training related to sign language interpretation. This education and training includes, but it's not limited to workshops, symposiums, and seminars.
Can we hold one moment? Darcy is saying I have a question, so if you could copy sign, please. Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind.
You repeat what you said.
Yes, so under pathway 3, education and training, it has the 40 hours of education and training is related to sign language interpretation, which could include workshops, symposiums, or seminars. And the English and ASL proficiency again. 1 second. Okay. And number 8, which is at the bottom of page 3, starts where we did the bulk of the work. So, so to meet the proficiency within pathway 2 or 3, we've given you, under 8 is the list of how to meet the English language proficiency. Most of this was taken from healthcare interpreter registry people because they already had it, and I provided that in your on page 13 at the top. You want to look at it. So to be proficient, A would be completion of a bachelor, master's, doctorate, or any other degree from a U.S. institution of higher education.
I'm lost back up there.
For the provisional, does this relate to medical certification? I'm lost. I thought we were talking about provisional. Now we're in medical.
No, no matter. I'm sorry. Oh, the HCI. Okay, now.
Oh, I'm not following.
So this document that the healthcare interpreter program created has a way, they've done the research on how to, what they believe would make you proficient in English or ASL. Rather than reinventing the wheel. For the most part, we stole it. I'm tired of her at all costs. It can be, if I can do it.
Right.
So yeah, page 14 in this packet. 14 at the top. Um, Communicate documents. Wait, you're not good at that. So this, basically what this is the last meeting I provided this to the RAC. Then we went through all of them and discussed, if they got that, like, Duolingo we removed. There's a good example of that. You had talked about 2 meetings ago that we removed. So this really just aligns with what another program already does. So hopefully it'll be more consistent. I'll just go down the lines and do the questions.
Darcy has a question. Perhaps I'm assuming this happened at the last meeting, but I'm wondering, in meetings previous to that, there had been a discussion about possibly separating the certification or specialty license for deaf interpreters. So how would that compare if they are part of this group? I want to clarify, I'm just wondering, is there any kind of new specialty licensure available for deaf interpreters?
Not at this. Nothing we've discussed or the board's approved.
Has her hand raised.
This is Mel. Seems like because the deaf interpreter pathway has been woven into what's here, that you guys are, it feels like a specialty license is no longer being considered an option. Is that still an option? You just haven't gotten to it yet?
Amber, I think in previous meetings, we had definitely talked about the specialty license, but I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I think in previous meetings, we had discussed it, but from what I remember, that the consensus is that we want to put out fires first before developing an entirely new one. But I could be wrong on that interpretation from previous meetings. That was my understanding, was to make it as accessible for deaf interpreters to be on the provisional and go that route, and then later we can develop the specialty license for deaf interpreters. I think that was what was discussed in previous meetings.
Darcy speaking, I'm just wondering because now there aren't many. Oh, okay. We're getting back on track. That was an interpreter interruption. Darcy's saying, yes, I'll have to come back to it. Caitlin?
Just as vehemently and wow and urgent as Christy was talking about, educational interpreters not needing a license to work, the need for deaf interpreters to be able to work in healthcare settings is as urgent. And we do not have enough at this time. And the threat of not providing effective communication in the healthcare settings puts the hospitals at risk and the deaf people's care at risk. And there's not enough at this time. So the barriers that we have, there is an urgency, I guess is what I'm saying, to have something in place that our current deaf interpreters who have hours of experience and hours of work in the field have a clear pathway to be able to continue serving the most marginalized of our deaf community. And it's just as urgent.
Amanda? Okay, sorry, Caitlin.
Speaks.
Yes, absolutely. There is an urgency. And because provisional licensees are not allowed to work in medical and legal settings, that is where the concern comes in. Because the deaf pathway has been built into only the provisional license, that is where the concern is, because they are not allowed to work in those specialized settings where they are needed desperately.
Amanda? I don't know that I understand that. Thank you.
Amanda, do you mind if I clarify real quick, or do you want? So
Yes.
a lot of deaf interpreters currently work in medical and legal settings. Because they're not certified, they don't qualify for generalist or supervisory licenses. Since we have built their pathway into the provisional license, they can no longer work in medical or legal settings.
You haven't got to the other licenses. You guys wanted to start with provisional. But we can pivot and go to a different license if you want. It's fine.
Are you saying that the pathway doesn't have to be?
I mean, you guys first meeting decided you want to start at the lowest level.
Yeah.
Which is provisional. 4 meetings, they're still working on it. Which is fine, I'm totally fine with that. But if you want to pivot and go to the general or supervisor. You can do that. Oh, okay. Amanda. You were next.
And then I'll come up and speak. This is Amanda. And what am I going to say? So it's similar to what Sammy was saying. That the provisional license, suppose there's a new interpreter or a new deaf interpreter who really wants to become a full-time interpreter. There are 3 different pathways, right? They don't have the barrier. They're good to, it's good entry, right, for a new interpreter? And then when we wrote the generalist and the supervisory, could we possibly grandfather in or count work hours or consider, the other items, not just certification? I'm just wondering about that because the newer interpreters, provisional seems fitting for them because provisional means new interpreter, but for people who already have so much experience, they're already working in the field, we need to have some kind of a grandfather clause or something, a way for them to continue their work and not just count their work experience and consider their qualification. Oh, sorry, practitioners, consider them as practitioners. So provisional licensure is for a new interpreter, either, right, for a new hearing or deaf interpreter. But when we consider the other 2 licensures, that's my thought. Okay, first is speaking. And I've been thinking similarly to what Amanda was saying. As we've been talking about the provisional license, we've been thinking about educational interpreters who have already been working in the field and they have a 3.5 or above. They're fine to go ahead and apply for their licensure, but brand new interpreters, we need to figure out what to do with them, how to get them entry into the field and find a pathway that fits them through ODE, through the health licensing office. Consider both of those licenses. And here's something else that I want to throw out there is as a deaf interpreter, we need to also consider those interpreters, new deaf interpreters, thinking about provisional. I mean, I haven't thought about this in depth, this part of it, but it seems okay as a new deaf interpreter to go into provisional, but currently we do have several deaf interpreters who are not yet certified, who are close to it. And they're already working in the field. They have many, many hours in legal and medical back settings. And we're not including them. So I don't see them considered anywhere in this process. They're not provisional. And so if they can't work under the general or supervisory, provisional is the only licensure available to them. And I'm wondering, some interpreters have already been working for 3, 4, 5 years, full experience in healthcare. And I'm wondering if there could be some way to consider deaf interpreters that have proficiency. For example, protactile American Sign Language, or interpreting for deafblind folks or deafblind interpreters. Interpreting for folks who have developmental disabilities. There are situations where it's very appropriate to have a deaf interpreter. So how do we include them? Not with the provisional, because provisional licensees cannot go into those settings. So what do we do? Because there's a need. And that's something that I would really like to recommend, that we have a consideration specifically for deaf interpreters, give them licensure if they haven't yet been certified, and not discount them.
We're going to take this opportunity to do an interpreter switch.
Right?
I think what I understood Sammy to say was, we can do all of that. We can include deaf interpreters in the generalist and the supervisory. We just haven't discussed those yet. We haven't established paths yet. That's why we're only talking about provisional right now.
And this is Amanda, just because I'm referencing, I use English, but I just looked at the law also, and the law doesn't say generalist has to have certification. It says requirements established by the board for qualifications, yada, yada. The temporary rules that became permanent rules do say certification, but the law doesn't. So I think we have latitude to make pathways that account for work experience, lived experience, those kinds of things.
This is Amber, so shall we discuss maybe a pathway for deaf interpreters and open up that conversation? See what that would look like.
Hi, this is Natalie. I would just suggest, like, if we're, since we've been working on the position for our meetings already, we should just finish this one first, and then the second or the next license that we look at, might be that one. So we can just finish one, please.
And what's that idea? Amanda?
So this is Amanda. I concur, because the very next page is defining supervision requirements, and I think that's me. And we need to address it.
Or you don't have to do that. You can skip supervision requirements and go somewhere else. You can do whatever you like. I mean, you can. I'm giving you guys free rein outside, as long as I feel. So I'll just run down the ASL proficiency requirement list. Which I started, so the first one is completion of 2 years college level education through coursework at least the 200 level in ASL from an accredited college or university in the United States. The next one would be for 4 years of high school level ASL in the United States. Having passed sign language proficiency interview where they score intermediate or above. Or having passed the American Sign Language performance interview with a score of at least 3.5 or above. That's on the bottom of page 10 and on page 10, under 9.
Looking for if there's a discrepancy between the 3.5 and a 4.0, but if we're good.
This is Amanda, clarifying question on 9A. Maybe B also. Is there a grade requirement or just that I took those classes?
Great
Do
question.
we need to have a C or above, a B or above?
Lori, you can take this one. We did this conversation before.
Oh.
We just talked about passing it, I think.
Well, and I think, so this is Amanda still. I think there is a way to do that. So if you got credit for it on your transcripts, however, different colleges have different versions of what passing is and what you get credit for. So at Western, for example, there's no credit is D or below, or D minus or below. But in other institutions, it might be different that you would get credit for. And do we think a D for 2 years of ASL is what we're going for?
Now, I think C or better. But then people take it pass fail.
Then it needs to pass. I don't know, just saying.
Some high schools don't provide passing, they just give a letter grade. So how do you enter that? I mean, what's the qualification, what's the measure of that? Are we saying a D or above? Or C or above? I would say C. That carries also better countries.
Sorry, I just have to note for the record that Deanna has joined online.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you take, if you pass with a D, can you still take the next class? Some high schools will allow that, yeah. Really, what about college? Some high schools will allow a D as a passing grade, it depends on the system. Amanda?
So what if we said a C or better, a C or passing grade? Because I don't want to penalize people just because they went to a school that they only have pass fail. At the same time, if they actually got Ds, I don't feel good about that.
Carrie has a
Carrie? So if the school only offers a pass fail, how would you know if they got Ds or not?
They don't get Ds, they would get a pass or a fail.
But if, so say they were at the D level, but it's still a pass,
We're gonna take it.
but you're not gonna take somebody that technically has a D.
Correct.
This seems kind of odd to me, but.
This is Amanda. We could also go with the wide gate and see what happens and take passing, which is a D or better, and then let our complaint arm handle that. Let our supervisory people handle that. Let our,
And you
Yeah,
can always
process.
tweak it in the future.
Whoa, are you?
Sorry. Because she's not gonna see here.
We don't want to have too many complaints coming in though, from the deaf community, about interpreters. I mean, you gotta weigh these options, right? Like, who's doing the work? Doing the complaint arm, or we just think.
Yes. And no. So, we haven't heard enough from the different community to shape our, what do you want to call it? Professionalism. So maybe it's time for us to listen to those complaints. Let's get them all out there and see how that changes the conversation, having the deaf community and the interpreters in the same conversation, because, there hasn't been enough from them, in my opinion. So maybe just let it happen and see how it rolls out. That's my opinion of it. But say, come on, give me everybody's opinion.
This is Amber. Also, I'm just thinking, like, I know that things have been really tough with a lot of the students going through COVID and school too. And like, if there's one class, they got a single D in, I would like to provide grace for that if it's applicable. But I completely echo what you're saying too, Amanda, that I think that let the chips fall where they may and let the process that we have in place do its job. 100%.
This is Darcy. So again, from a deaf general, supervising perspective. Sometimes the deaf consumers are tired. They have to do all the work, right? They have to file the complaint. They have to take their time. They have to use their energy. And that is exhausting. So again, that's the other viewpoint on all of this. So who is gonna take some of that responsibility for the complaint process? I guess we just need a clear specified process for that, get it out there prior to things happening. So that's my 2 cents.
This is the interpreter interrupting just for a second. Mel, have you gotten feedback? Should we be copy signing for anyone?
I was just saying the people online, if there was a deaf person, could see it.
Can they see it? They can see you
the
guys. Yeah.
table.
Oh, hi.
I can't see it.
I feel like when I look at it, it's small, but I can see clear when Darcy is signing. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. I thought maybe somebody gave you feedback, so sorry to interrupt.
So this is Amanda. So I agree, Darcy. And also I think, maybe you could be copy signing her. Are you copy signing her? Yeah, I think it needs to happen. Because, they can't see her.
There's a second camera that we can't see. It's
Right there.
behind the screen, but
It's
you
right
can
on.
see the whole room. But
It's so
okay, she's
small,
saying it's
though.
too
I agree.
small,
Okay.
so. Deaf people can't see that far, so.
Do you want me to put it up on the board?
No, it's fine.
Madison, yeah, you can see it.
We'll copy sign. That's fine. You're standing over.
Yep.
Double coverage.
No, I can't see the other interpreter. Okay, I'll just watch Amanda.
Okay.
Okay, Amanda, go ahead.
All right, what was I saying? Okay, so I agree, Darcy. And also, so far, a strong mechanism to be able to complain. There's been lots of chatter, but there's been no power, there's been no teeth in those complaints. So if we have, the opportunity for these complaints to take hold, that would be nice. And then, the opposite, if it's a C or above, if you took something that was pass fail, it's like, sorry, you don't qualify, that doesn't, we could see what happens with that. So we could do that. We could do C or above and just see what happens. If there's several people that can't get in, or maybe there's just a few and the C above is adequate. We could test it either way, it's kind of the process, and I think it'll work out either way. If we open it right now, pass or above or a C or above, and just see what happens. If there's problems come up, we can see where. So I feel that we could do it either way.
I personally feel like the C or above or passing is a better path than putting the responsibility on the deaf clients to have to be the bad guys. That's a lot of heat, and I don't know that everyone would feel comfortable doing that. Some people are just gonna say, yeah, they did fine, they did a good job, and they're not giving the right information to folks. So if I had my druthers, it would be C or above. I don't know that that's gonna make a ton of difference. There's still gonna be people who need to be ousted from provisional status, but that's fine.
So if we pass the EIPA with a 3.5, you know, that equals a C, correct?
Right.
Okay, great. So I agree with the C. And the interpreters are gonna take the notes.
You can go ahead.
Go ahead. Look at Lauren reads over there.
Do you want this for little a and little b, 9 little a and b? Okay, and would this also in any way apply to under number 8? When you do English proficiencies, like got all of these in a bachelor's, that doesn't matter. I can still get my high school diploma. But just want to make sure that don't look like copy. That we're only talking about those. You might repeat a couple of times, that's what we're looking. Under 8, A, B, and C, it all is completion of a bachelor, master, or doctorate degree, or any other degree from a U.S. institution with a letter grade counts, like ULDs, and then the next one is a high school completion or a GED, and then the next one is graduation from higher education institution abroad, where English is the primary language. So grades passed do not count.
Okay, this is Amanda. I think we leave it because there are standards in order to graduate. Now, that's not entirely true for high school in Oregon right now, but like a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, associates, you can't pass with Fs. You can pass with Ds, I suppose, on some level, but you have to have a GPA of a certain level in order to get those degrees. So I don't think we need to specify anything different. I don't know for sure. I don't know if somebody did research on GEDs, but I think GED is similar. You have to demonstrate a level of competence that I think we would find sufficient. I'm not 100%. Lori, I was gonna look at you because I thought maybe you did research on it.
I did not,
Oh,
but Georgianne would like the link. I was only half listening to you because I was separating and was.
Do you want me to send it?
Yes,
This
please.
is, yeah, I just sent her the link.
I'm actually in here. Sorry.
Yes, she just joined.
I have found.
Okay, so if we could just go back up to number 8, I started it, but I never finished it. Got off on the journalist and supervisor. So it's on page 9 and 10, starts on the bottom 9. And so it's the completion of the degree, high school or abroad. And then the next one, before having the full, right, so thank you. The CAE, CVE, and these, we took this directly from Oh, that's good. Perfect. Okay, then we did add, number 10 is the applicant's responsibility to provide sufficient proof to HOA. Okay. Okay, we go to supervision.
If you want to go back to the educational.
Go ahead, Mel.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Lori saying you're coming in.
I said, did you,
Georgiana has, I think, joined online, I think is what we're looking at.
I have, and you all are cutting in and out a little bit, just FYI. So I heard a little of that.
Yeah, Georgiana, if you wanna,
About a temporary.
is
rule?
Christy still on?
Yes, Christy's here. Oh, okay. Sure. I can talk to you about, I just left our pre-meeting for the Orca, which is the new name for the rack, whatever. It's a different place now for ODE. But anyway, I am on there for a temporary rule where we can reword the OAR so that licensure is no longer a dependent piece for 180 days, which gives hopefully you all and the board enough time to get licensure process in place. So then it will go back to requiring the licensure. I did hear from people that there are some other ideas about change. That would be a process that we can go through. Absolutely. I have no problem with that, but it's not through the temporary rule change. That can only be for an emergency, which this is because we need interpreters in our schools. Probably before I can get it changed, actually, but hopefully the process will help people feel better about what they're doing. Christy?
This is Christy. Georgianne, is this a definite? It will happen?
I will take it to the Orca and the board. I don't get to say that they will approve it. I don't know that they won't, though. As soon as we make the point that we need interpreters for our students who are deaf, I'm pretty sure that it hopefully will go through.
Thank you.
Yep. Did you want anything else, Sammy?
No.
Okay.
Do you need anything from us? Or me?
I don't think so at this time. I think we're good.
So just one thing, a couple things actually. So people are not getting notification of rule changes from Department of Ed. So I'm going to send them the rule coordinator information to get on your mailing list. So just put that bug in your ear.
Okay.
And I have information from my temporary rule filings that I can send you just so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sammy. Thanks.
Okay. And will you be, you and I will talk offline.
Okay.
About how.
And I'll be here the rest of the meeting if you need me as well.
Yay, yay. We hope. Go
ahead, Sarah.
I said cross our fingers that day.
Georgianne, this is Lori. You said that you weren't sure about the timeline. Do you have any feel for when you're going to be able to try to get the temporary rule in place?
I go to the first meeting on the 5th of September.
So our interpreters will be out of compliance for some number of weeks until that's in place, right?
It could happen. I wouldn't
So we
know unless someone
Nothing
complains.
to do that.
But yeah, unless someone complains, ODE would not be aware of it. But yes, that could happen, that we'll have some out of compliance interpreters in our schools.
Yeah, go ahead, Heather. Georgianne, can you explain that complaint process that you explained yesterday? Maybe that would be helpful for draft members to understand how the process works.
Okay,
Or-
I think I understand your question. So ODE, so for example, the minimum sign language rules that we have already, the rule we had before I even altered it, had all these requirements in it. We had no mechanism, ODE has no mechanism of looking into interpreters randomly or, any way unless we were to receive a complaint of some sort. And then that's how we find out when districts are out of compliance, is when we would receive a parent complaint or, we also get staff complaints too. So anyone can complain to ODE. So then we would go in and determine, if there was someone interpreting without meeting minimum requirements or whatever it may be. Is that what you were needing?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry to keep throwing questions at you, Georgianne, but a question came up earlier today, which could become a reality for me, which is the school district doesn't have an interpreter. I was not able to hire an interpreter for a specific school district. So they are going to go through an agency to provide that interpreter. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that that interpreter, once licenses are required, which they are at the moment, is in fact holding an educational interpreter license?
I suppose it would be the district's responsibility. I don't do licenses, so I'm not exactly sure. Sammy, is there a mechanism with licensure for that?
If they're providing services without a license, well, we have a waiver right now.
So we're talking like in the spring, once there's a license and you have somebody that has no license.
Then you can make a complaint to us and we would investigate it.
But I'm asking who's responsible? Is it the agency who's putting an interpreter out into the schools, knowing they're educational interpreters and they don't hold an educational interpreter license? Or is it the school district who holds the burden of faith and ensuring that licensure is?
Who's next? I don't know who's next in it. Natalie, I guess?
Okay, yeah, this is Natalie. So how it works I work at Film Health, and how it works is like with the agency. The agency is the one responsible to make sure that they have their licenses.
I would think so.
Because you request an interpreter, they send one, so they need to make sure that they have their license.
And then another one could say it's.
Okay, no.
This is Mel. The burden is on the entity. So as an institution, ODE ultimately is responsible to make sure their interpreters have a license, generalist or education. Through our contracting process, I would think, if you are going to contract with an agency, in your contract language, you have to say only send licensed interpreters. So you're protecting yourself. But you have to do that in your contract language of who they send. So then the agency, to meet our contract requirements, has to follow through, would be my process.
This is Christy. So
Sorry, good.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
Not you.
am I okay? Are we good? Okay, this is Christy. My,
This is Heather. I was just clarifying, you're talking about ODE's rules and not the board rules in terms of who has a license. Again, those are those two different processes, whether you're looking at whether someone's complying with ODE's requirement to have a license, or whether you're looking at the board's requirement and the statutes generally, whether someone is licensed. So those are two different processes. My understanding, your question was geared towards ODE.
My question was geared towards whichever entity of the two is requiring the license at any given moment.
It's really the person providing the service needs to make sure they're licensed, and if they're not, they would be cited. by HLO. Essentially, we're working without a license.
And can we just do a really quick interpreter switch and then it'll be Amanda?
I mean, a small business could, it's a crime to employ somebody who's not.
Say that again, Sam?
It's a crime under the law to employ somebody without a license to provide these services.
But an agency who hires,
The, which would be
hires
business.
multiple.
We're not following, this is not showing who's speaking. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
So a business must give, for the purpose of providing sign language interpretation services, a person may not employ or contract with an individual who is not licensed to provide sign language interpretation services. But a
You
business,
might have an
Or can
agency,
we pause and say names first?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. This is Lori.
you might have an agency that hires 100 interpreters of varying types. And then this person might be professional or a generalist or whatever, and not be allowed to work as an educational interpreter. But they may not consciously think about that once they've hired someone with a license. I hope they do. I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out.
Amanda,
This is Amanda. If my kid is in school and has a sign language interpreter that is not licensed, am I suing the interpreter, the school, ODE, or the agency that sent them? Like who is in trouble?
that's not our part.
Right, but like, okay, maybe sue isn't the right word, but who, I mean, I think this is getting at the same responsibility. So you said the interpreter would be cited for not being licensed.
Correct.
Would ODE/the agency also be cited in some way, or would you can't decide whether I have grounds to sue them, I understand that, but like, other people are also responsible. The mechanism is not just the practicing interpreter, or only the practicing interpreter has culpability if they,
Well, what I just read is a business.
what's a business
An
defined as?
agency would be a business.
Okay, so they would also have some
But that's
liability.
fine, we don't deal in crime.
No, I understood. It's not under this mechanism, but there are multiple people.
I don't know
Liable,
what
potentially.
OTE has as far as their authorities and can they do things? I have the funniest idea.
Yes.
Tina?
Also, we have a license inquiry on our website that you can put in the name and it will tell you if a person's licensed or not.
Online folks have some questions.
And answers.
Georgianne, go ahead and go first.
Are we okay? Is it us? Okay. So to answer some of this, ODE would have their OAR. School districts would be the ones ultimately responsible for FAPE, which is a free and appropriate public education. And so if you have a child who is not receiving their sign language interpreting in the way that it is in the OARs, then a parent could complain to their school district as the first step. And then the school district does not handle it and manage it and take care of it and provide whatever the parent, whatever is needed to help that student, then the complaint could come to ODE as well.
This is Christy.
Um,
I have a
Okay, Christy, go ahead.
I have a more immediate scenario, and that would be that an agency, a regional program, a district needs to hire a freelance interpreter. But freelance interpreters are still under the understanding that there's a waiver, and so they have not yet applied for their license because they don't need to until January. So now we have this gap of potentially available interpreters because they're not licensed. So that would be my most immediate concern beginning for me on August 21st when we have an all-staff meeting and I have freelance interpreters scheduled. what to do.
That would be a Georgian question.
Yep, I'm looking at Jordan.
Sorry, I cannot advise what to do either way. You technically need to have whatever the OAR is stating at the time, need to follow the rules. And evidently there is no way for HLO to put in the waiver. We talked about this yesterday at the board meeting. That was the quick fix until I could get something done. But if there could be a saying that this is going to serve as licensure, this waiver serves as your licensure at this time, that would clear our rules. So they'd still have to meet all of our other things, but they wouldn't have to do that. So, but they can't do that either. So just like we can't go out and say, it's okay, this OAR is not working right now, so just ignore it. We have to go through a whole process. It's unfortunate that it's so last minute when school's going to start. I'm so sorry.
Amy? People can come to HLO and get the license. This is thing. We're not stopping you from doing that. And since it's in the ODE rules that you must have the license, you can come here and probably do it the same day, most of the time, I think. Yeah. So. Amber?
This is Amber speaking. I just want to tag on to what Kate had mentioned before, Sammy, which is that a lot of the K through 12 interpreters are looking for that reimbursement part of it. So until they can get that rolling, that's going to be a potential barrier for some K through 12 interpreters in order to get their licenses.
Let me take a break, but first Caitlin. You'll be the last person and then we'll go take a break.
This is Caitlin. Also, I am a rare jewel about being willing to drive 6 hours in one day to come to Salem to just hand over some paperwork. That's not something that's easily doable for all of our rural interpreters that really need to get this license. And again, they've budgeted for this summer. We do not have any money coming in. We're waiting until that first paycheck in September.
Two things. You can do it through the mail. And licensing has been required since June. So this isn't new. We've known this. We can't fix it. We can only do what we can do.
Amanda? This is Amanda. Just a quick thing. Also, I think there's been a misunderstanding about the waiver, at least I understand it differently. The waiver isn't you don't have to have a license. The waiver is we're not going to pursue you for not having a license. There's still a requirement to have a license, correct? Okay.
We're not going out, we're going side,
Right.
side.
Should we recess?
In 5 minutes.
Think about that.